People who've quit their jobs on short notice out of spite, what was the final nail in the coffin? When they showed complete disregard for my safety for the third time. I worked at a place whose name I won't say, but I will say they are the Canadian version of Walmart and are one of two big box stores in the Cayman Islands where I live. I can remember three major events that put me in danger that finally cemented my decision to get the hell out of there. The first was during my first month on the job. We had gotten complaints from the floor managers that the massive steel shelves, I think like 3 stories of heavy-duty scaffolding, were wobbly because the nuts securing the feet to the floor had backed off or broken. The store manager comes to me and says, "Hey, I saw on your resume that you have a mechanic certification. WTH, that has to do with tightening shelves. I have no idea. Why don't you head to the back, grab all the equipment you need, and go through the store and secure them back down?" I tell the manager that sure, I can do it, but that it would be best if we wait until after hours because it will require me to thread myself in between the shelf to get to some of the bolts, and they are more than massive enough to crush me if one of the guys bumped into them with the forklifts or if they shifted at all. I'm assured that it will be fine and that the floor managers have been instructed not to operate the forklifts in areas where I'm working. I'm even given a nice red placard to hang up that states that there are persons behind the shelves and to be careful. Okay, while I'm not super stoked about this plan, this at least reduces the risk to me somewhat, so I head to the back, get my assorted box and wrenches, and get to work. 4 hours in, and I've basically contortioned my bum into a very tight space where I'm sideways with my chest pinned against one of the shelving units and my back to the other. I honestly can't even take deep breaths because the space is so small. I'm getting ready to move out of it when I hear the store manager and one of the floor guys arguing about something. I can't really make it out over the background noise, but something tells me I should hurry. I hear the floor guy say, "Fine," and then I hear the ever-familiar beep, beep, beep of one of the forklifts operating. Sure enough, the pallet he's loading onto the shelf I had just been in behind snags and pushes a shelving unit back and into the other one with a loud clang. And I see the space I had just been in close up like a fricking Tomb Raider trap. I shove myself back out completely and come out covered in dirt and rust, and there's the manager, the stupidest freaking grin on his face, and says, "Thought we lost you there for a second." It took every ounce of self-restraint I had not to brain his bald Canadian bum with the 2-inch wrench I had. Second time was when I was working the back assembling some display units, and one of the jerks decided to back a forklift out without looking and pin me between the display I was working on and the stack of pallets behind me. I was then reamed out for not paying attention to my surroundings. The third and final time was when the store manager tried to get me to stand on a stack of pallets and have a forklift raise me up to the top of the shelves, which was about 2 stories up. Told him there was no way I was putting myself at that kind of risk. He tried to browbeat me into doing it, but I wasn't going to get killed for this company's bottom dollar. I'd recently heard back from my current job that I had gotten in and that I would be starting in 2 months. I said screw it, told them they had my 2 weeks and walked out. Needless to say, I didn't actually give them 2 weeks of my time. Story 2. I was on contract and the boss asked me to put in more effort, which took some explaining. What he really meant was, I want you to put in more hours for free. This wasn't a shape up or ship out speech following a lunch he'd had with my recruiter. What he didn't realize was that I had spoken to my recruiter already and knew he'd told him a bunch of lies, which I called him out on. He was trying to explain things like, well, what I meant was, thinking my recruiter wouldn't tell me. At one point, he wanted to keep running me down, but I didn't want to hear it, so I told him so and that I would just pack my things and leave. He said, but you have to give me 2 weeks' notice. From day one, this guy had been saying no notice was necessary, and if he didn't want me around anymore, I would be gone just like that with no explanation. So I told him that and that he'd said it was a two-way street, and if I wanted to quit, I could, no questions asked. When the conversation ended, he said he needed to talk to his boss before I could leave. I told him okay, but he only had until I packed my things. I packed things up, waited about 5 minutes more, then left. I called my recruiter and told him what happened. This guy lasted a few weeks more but was fired. I like to think I helped with that, partly because he had been blaming me every time something went wrong. But I'd also been doing some work for the company's CFO, which the CFO liked, but this guy didn't, but still tried taking credit for, even though he knew nothing about it. So when I left, I think it exposed a bunch of his other lies. What is it with employers thinking people will work for free? Like, would they work for free? I doubt it. Story 3. I'd wanted to leave for months. The unprofessionalism and complete lack of managerial skills in a five-star resort was embarrassing. I'd lie to people about where I worked. It got to a point where the money wasn't worth the condescension, and I'd saved enough to go traveling for a few months at least. Anyway, a friend's brother passed away. This friend was also a colleague. We're from a small beachside town, and the first email he got from our boss, days later, was to make sure he handed in his uniform or they would withhold his paycheck after he resigned. The boss knew about the tragedy. It was a PS on the bottom of the email. That was the last straw. Email went something like this: Dear staff member, please ensure your uniform is washed, ironed, and folded in the manner in which it was received, preferably by tomorrow. If it is not received in a timely manner, we will be withholding your pay until it is returned. Regards, management. P.S. Sorry about your brother. I quit that day, along with 2 other guys. Over the next 2 weeks, 9 more staff members from my department quit, and 3 more from other departments. The toxic environment of that resort was just too much, and the email just confirmed how little management cared about us. Bonus, I'm still friends with one boss. He said the other boss, email lady, was happy we left because she could hire a whole new team. A young, obedient, and impressionable team who would adhere to all her crazy rules, not workplace standard, but hers personally. And because the whole department, save for 2 people, had quit, no one could train the new staff to do the jobs. Weddings and exorbitant corporate functions were unorganized and rushed. They received poor reviews and feedback. Email lady was majorly stressed and had rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I'll have to get an update on that situation. Schadenfreude has never been stronger. Also, a few of us had previously planned an exodus in hopes of the department failing. I guess this could also go in r/petty revenge. Story 4. Quit Best Buy after 2 weeks. Just called up an hour or so before a shift and said, yeah, not coming in ever again. Here's a list of crap from that 2-week time frame. Got barked at for taking a customer too close to a lift someone was using during prime hours on the sales floor. The lift was in the middle of an aisle and we turned around as soon as we rounded the corner and saw the thing blocking it. Got barked at for cleaning extremely dusty shelves and TVs at 9 in the morning because there are customers in the department. There was one on the other side of the department and my coworker was already attending to them. Was consistently sent to my 30-minute lunch 3 hours into my 8-hour shift. That was also the only break allowed. Got barked at by my supervisor after selling $3,500 worth of stuff to someone because I didn't tack on an extra $1,000 of useless crap and was accused of, quote, selling from my own pocket, which basically means selling based on what I could afford. Hammered daily about credit card sign-up goals. That's all we heard, every 30 to 60 minutes, an update on how close to the daily store goal we were. Know how many signups I saw in my 2 weeks there? None, not for lack of trying. LP guys would tell you over the walkie-talkie when someone walked into the department. That got annoying quickly. Compounded by the fact we were expected to go to them ASAP, chat, and hand them a little folder about our products. That's how management saw we were actually talking to people. I worked retail 3 years before going to Best Buy. The way they ran things was just totally insane compared to ways I'd previously seen. Yeah, way too many retail stores have turned into credit card companies. It's like the reason Amazon and Walmart dominate nowadays. Story 5. I was working as a postie in Australia around 1990. We started work at 5:30 a.m., sorted the mail, then walked out to deliver it. Once your mail was delivered, you were free to go home. A lot of the guys were very lazy and their beats were arranged to finish at the pub on the corner opposite the post office. They would then go in there and rack up overtime while claiming to be out delivering mail when in fact they were getting pissed. Sometimes the postmaster would try to sneak over to the pub to see if he could catch any of his blokes in there. The barman would give them the alarm because they had their backs to the doors drinking away and they would go hide in the toilets till he went away again. Anyway, being young and interested in fitness at that time, I started jogging around my walking beat and delivering mail. There were several times that I finished for the day before 9 a.m. and once at around 8 a.m., and that meant all my houses got their mail early too, of course. They were very happy about this. I remember one woman complimenting me about it because before me, they wouldn't get it till the afternoon. Well, after a couple of months of this, the postmaster came and told me, because you've been finishing faster than the other guys, we've decided your run isn't big enough and we're going to give you some of the streets. So, you're going to penalize your best worker, me, and reward the lazy jerks who are racking up fake overtime in the pub? No thanks. I was in his office while he was telling me this. Once he finished, I then resigned immediately. He was still trying to talk me into staying as I walked out. As it happened, my brother had gotten a job with a national retailer a year ago and was asking me to join. I walked out of the old job and was in a new one by Friday, and I wound up staying there for almost 13 years. Well, like they say, the reward for doing your assigned work in less than the allotted time will always be more work to do. This is a law as immutable as gravity, I guess. Oh, and since you are halfway through this video, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel so you wouldn't miss out on my upcoming videos. Let's go ahead and get back to the stories. Story 6. I posted about this before, but my boss actually came to my house, demanded to see me to my roommates, who inexplicably let him in and pointed to my room. My boss went into my bedroom where I was in bed reading and, thank God, dressed, and he proceeded to yell at me for like 15 minutes about the status of the calendar display. It was Christmas season, I managed a bookstore, and the calendar display was probably a mess because they were so hard to keep neat. Stunned that my boss came into my private bedroom on my time off, I simply did nothing. I didn't know that was even a thing someone would consider doing. My boss demanded I come in early the next morning along with someone from corporate would be there, and I would get lectured on my calendar display and given lessons on how to set it up right. Then he left, slamming my door behind him. I called my girlfriend at the time and she convinced me to just quit and come to see her. She lived 400 miles away and stay for Christmas. Then I went to my roommates, asked them incredulously, "Why did you let that guy come in here?" "I don't know," he said. "He was your boss and looked mad." And then I packed, I got a train ticket, took my store keys off my key ring, and got some sleep. The next morning, I walked into the store early, met my boss and the corporate guy, and silently, I handed him my key and only said, "No hard feelings, you shouldn't have done that, though." I turned around, walked out of the store, and took a train to Cumberland. I spent Christmas with my girlfriend for a few weeks, came back to my place, and got another job within 2 weeks. Leaving a store around Christmas time screwed my boss because he had to work my store, arrange for floaters to cover him, and he had to take over all the paperwork while running all the other stores in the district. He probably had to work 80-hour weeks over Christmas and into New Year's. According to my former employees, when I came back to pick up my last paychecks, my boss was shocked and overwhelmed. He seemed completely bewildered why I quit. When I told them, they were like, oh no, that's not cool. That's not cool at all. Also, I ended up marrying that girlfriend. Final blow, due to his scrambling, he forgot to file that I had quit until mid-January, so I got paid for a month I didn't even work there. Plus, I got some store bonus because I had been there a full calendar year, according to the paperwork. Story 7. Working for Waffle House as a quote-unquote floater manager, meaning I covered anything for the restaurant manager or cooks and waitresses. Not only cooking and waiting tables, but doing inventories, stock order, bank runs, managing the bills, you name it. The job was brutal, 16 hours a day, 14 or more days at a time before a day off, then right back at it for another 2 weeks or more. I usually got stuck working third shift plus first shift, which, as anyone knows, means the bar crowd on weekends, which made it 10x worse, plus the morning rush the next day. Also had to work every holiday. Being on my feet all the time plus restaurant work made me not want to eat, so I'd lost a drastic amount of weight and was burning out hard. One day I'm on the phone with my dad and we have the following conversation about it. "Dad, sounds like you need to get out of there and find another job. You can stay here at home until you do." Me, "Okay, I'll put in my 2 weeks." Dad, "Why? You gonna use them for a reference later?" Me, "Well, no." Dad, silent, ... That was it. I've been asking for some day shifts for a long time, not a night person either, so I figured I'd look at the schedule and see where I was slotted to work for the next week. Sure as hell, they put me on the third shift all week. Went out to my car, grabbed my uniforms, and told the smiling jerk of a manager, "Thanks, but no thanks. I quit. Good luck covering the shift." Best part, as I was walking back to my car, the district manager and his boss, the area manager, were walking in. I stopped to talk to them, and they asked the standard, "How are you doing today?" Having just quit and having a huge burden just lifted from my shoulders, I answered honestly, "I'm doing great. Best day of my life." They smiled, I waved, got in my car, and left. I can only imagine their reactions when they got inside and found out I'd just quit, leaving the restaurant manager to cover third shift himself since no one else was available, which also meant the district manager had to cover day shift since this guy now had to work third. Best day ever. Story 8. Worked at Staples way back when I was 18. Got transferred when I moved with my dad. New boss tells me he personally accepted my transfer because he saw I was a good seller back where I was, and he would be happy to have me and yappity yap all the good stuff. I was part time but still managed to hold second best selling rates after the full time guy, just as I did in the last store. They knew I had no interest in selling their BS extended warranty, but I was good at doing so anyway, even when I knew it was BS most of the time. People bought my shtick every time. Suddenly, 4 months after transferring, I got a call from the store manager, asked me to come into the office right away. Surprised, I went in and expected to talk about a raise since I didn't yet have the 3 months raise we are supposed to have. He tells me I am the worst employee he ever had, told me I sold exactly zero warranty for the 2 months I was there, and that he was really thinking about firing me but would give me a last chance to make it up for him. Also told me that I had the transfer only because he took me in pity and that if he listened to my last manager, that I would never be there. That she, last manager, was super unimpressed and recommended not to hire me. Problem was, the last manager was not female. It was a super cool dude that I still have good relations with. The woman in question was a witch trying to overtake the manager position. Also, I had proof that I was there for more than 2 months, and that day I had sold 10 warranties already. He would not listen to any of it, so I got up and went back to work like nothing happened. When I saw him coming back to look for me, I took off my shirt in the middle of the busy store, dumped my old, crumbling shoes in the middle of an alley, and folded my shirt on it. Took my flip-flops that were under the counter and walked home. I got a call the next morning from my superior telling me how sorry the boss was that he made a mistake. I came back the next day to empty my locker and the manager was apologizing profusely. He mistook me for another dude with the same name as me and got the wrong person. Screw you, old fart. Story 9. I walked straight out of my job at DQ when I was 17. Basically, it was lunch rush, and since it was a Sunday, we had a skeleton crew since lunch was the only busy time of day. I had 11 orders on the screen with more coming in, absolutely flying around the kitchen making stuff. Manager was standing in the doorway, literally just leaning up against the wall, talking crap like, "Wow, you're kind of slow today," or "I thought you were faster than this." I was still getting orders out in like less than 6 minutes, and she wasn't even offering to help. I was already sick of working there, but this pushed me over the edge. I asked if she was going to help, and she said no. I asked if she thought she could do better than me, and she said, "Of course." I told her, "Okay then, have fun," and dropped my hat and name tag on the counter and walked out. Felt so freaking good. I got a job 2 weeks later in a department store making more per hour with no grease and heat and coworkers who weren't crappy people. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you made it this far, I'm sure you're also going to enjoy people that quit their jobs in a hilarious fashion. How did you do it? Story 2 was unbelievably insane. I'll see you in that video, and thank you for watching this one.